All right, welcome to week 2 for our lecture. Hope you guys are doing okay. My name is Billy Barnett. I will be teaching today. My friend, Dr. Monica Clayton, is here with us as well. She's going to be monitoring the chat box. We have more people than we would have in a typical month. We are in our busy season, and so our lectures are a little bit more full than usual, and so the chat box tends to get moving pretty quick. And Dr. Clayton is going to watch that with you guys. So I want to get myself organized here. I have my camera turned on so you can see me for a minute, and then I'm going to turn my camera off because my computer, the fans get really loud with my video on. So I'm going to turn my video off. There we go. And I want to share my screen. There we go. Hope you guys can see my screen. We can do a couple of things. As you guys are coming in, I'm admitting you to make sure that you can get in. So we are in week 2, and we're going to talk about positive psychology, and we are going to talk about the brain. So Monica, if you are able to, could you help me by admitting some of these folks who are coming in? It's kind of hard for me to go back and forth between bringing people into the meeting and talking. Hopefully that'll work. All right. So we're going to talk about positive psychology. Under those things, we're going to talk about flow, and then well-being and PERMA, and then we're going to talk about the brain a little bit, and hopefully you guys can see my screen, see my slides. Yes, good. See, some people do, some people don't. Yes, good. All right. Normally we would go from about 1 until 3. So I'm going to try to make sure that we don't go any further than that. But we're going to take a break, hopefully, in between things. I'm going to go over the discussion board directions so that you guys are aware of the quests and the things that are involved in that. I know you might have some questions about that, so hopefully we'll get through some of this content just a little bit, and then we'll do the homework a little bit more towards the end. One of the things that I like to do is to encourage you to participate with me and to participate with us. And so if you would like to, I would like to encourage you to turn your microphone on, and I want to make sure that you guys are able to. Yes, you are unable, you are allowed to unmute yourself. If you have something that you would like to contribute, I do ask that you be mindful of the fact that there are a whole bunch of us here today. And so if you have something you'd like to share about what I'm talking about, that would be super cool. It makes it like it's more of a fun class instead of just me being a talking head or a talking voice. And so at the same time, later on, whenever we do our break, I'm going to allow you guys to have that time, like 5 minutes or so, to just kind of talk to each other amongst yourselves. Do know that the recording will still be going. And so whatever you say can be heard through the recording. But I do want you to consider this to be your time to learn as much as it's my time to teach. So what do you guys think?
Sounds good.
Yay, a person.
I'm game.
Yeah, it works for me.
Cool.
Fine by me.
Me too.
Yeah, that works.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. All right.
All righty.
Excellent. So one of the things we do need to know is sometimes it kind of gets away from us, and I need to rein it in every now and then. And so the fine line we risk here is making sure that I stay on task and that you guys don't run off on a sidetrack. And so I'm apologizing ahead of time if I have to be a little bit of a stickler on bringing it back to the content. But I do want to encourage you guys to ask your questions. And when you feel like it, speak up. It'll be cool. So a little bit about me. I am a licensed mental health counselor. Monica, Dr. Clayton, and I both worked together before working here at Full Sail. And so she and I have a lot of history doing the same kind of stuff in the same kind of places. And so I was a therapist in several programs south of Orlando. And then I ended up coming over here to Full Sail a little bit after I earned my license. And so now I have a private practice where I do counseling. My wife, Lauren, she has a speech therapy business. And so our business is actually partnered together. And we both work quite a bit with kids and teenagers. And it's cool to be able to be working in education and also working in the industry as a therapist and running a business. Like, that's cool. I was a photographer professionally for about 15 years. And so I did that to help pay for my graduate school. And it's part of how I learned how to tell stories. It was more visual, but everything that I do as a therapist is helping people tell their stories. And so it's pretty cool to be able to be, you know, the same philosophy when I'm doing teaching and counseling, and when I'm taking pictures. I get to kind of be cohesive in what I do the whole time. And so a large part of what we teach in this class is super compatible with that thing of being one cohesive message in your life. And we're going to get into that later in the month when we get into the golden circle. But here in this week, there's some of that with flow, and we're going to talk about that a little bit today. And positive psychology is like tapping into your strengths. And we're gonna talk about that a little bit. All right. So, all right. Oh, good. My friend Tawana is here too. Tawana is also one of our instructors, and she's hanging out with us today. So y'all better be on your best behavior. All right. So here's what we were doing today. For the first half anyway, we're going to challenge this whole idea of regular psychology. You can't see my air quotes, but it's the clinical type of psychology, or the diseased model of psychology. So what we're going to be talking about is positive psychology and how it's different than clinical psychology. So we're going to explore happiness and gratitude and PERMA being the really big one. So the way this kind of divides up is mainly among two different periods: before our world wars and after. And so before our world wars, psychology was a study of like high character and strengths and virtues. And it was developing strengths, developing things that are good. And so psychology as a field is basically young, but in the earlier parts, it was more focused on what's good and how do we make those things that are good better. Okay. And then when the world wars came, people came back from those wars with, at the time, they called it shell shock. And so now we call it post-traumatic stress disorder. And so when those soldiers were coming back, they were traumatized. And it became kind of a really big burden for society to address, those problems that veterans were coming back with. And so what we ended up developing was this idea that we could identify symptoms and then address those symptoms. And so clinical psychology basically came out of a switch in view about the purpose of psychology. And so it became very much about diagnosing and treating mental illnesses. And so instead of looking for strengths, we began looking for symptoms. And as they were able to identify what those symptoms were, they were able to categorize them into groups. And then those groups of symptoms became disorders by definition. And so as we were able to define those definitions, we have some stuff here in our slide that it sort of turned into. So there were huge strides in understanding therapy and mental health. And so 14 disorders became identified and managed. And new treatments were identified and developed. And so that's good stuff. But the bad stuff was that psychology became basically about victim, being a victim. And the psychologists went about treating the mental illnesses of patients within a disease framework. And so they were trying to repair damage. And those damages were in habits, drives, childhoods, brains. And the real kicker is that there's no prevention of mental illness. When you go to the dentist, they work on prevention. When you go to the counselor, we do try to help you with prevention, but you can't prevent mental illness. You can guard against, further decline. And there's a lot of treatment that I guess probably tries to go against this idea, but you can't really prevent mental illness. You can prevent, some of the symptoms from degrading, and you can cope with symptoms. It's basically all about coping with symptoms. And so the whole idea here is that clinical psychology is focused on what's wrong. And so we're going to really contrast that with positive psychology, because positive psychology is not focused on what's wrong. It's not just the study of pathology, weakness, and damage. It's the study of strength and virtue. It's not just fixing what's broken, it's nurturing what is best. It's not just a branch of medicine concerned with illness or health, it's much more. It's about work, education, insight, love, growth, and play. And it's the difference between being proactive and reactive. So you can't find happiness by assigning power to things outside of your control. And so what we do in positive psychology is we try to identify what are those things that are inside of your control, because those are the things that you can develop and increase your positive stuff. Does it make sense so far?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool.
Pretty good so far.
Yes.
I'm taking a sip of my drink. At this point, it's Pepsi. In a little while, it'll be water. All right, so we're gonna study two guys. Coffee was earlier. We're gonna study two guys. Martin Seligman. So Martin Seligman is the guy who is kind of the main face of positive psychology. If you go look up positive psychology on the interwebs, you will find Martin Seligman as being one of the main guys. And so in our reading, we have a TED Talk in there for you. And it is basically his prominent advocating for positive psychology. So he was a president of the American Psychological Association years ago, and he advocated very heavily for positive psychology. And I can tell you, whenever I went through my graduate degree and being a therapist, I did not get very much positive psychology stuff in my education at all. It was really after coming to Full Sail that I learned about positive psychology. And it's really shaped me quite a bit as a therapist, even though I was already licensed by the time I learned about it. So he is really, he brings together the like clinical approach with positive psychology. And so when I say that, what I mean is he helps identify positive strengths, and then how do you use those positive strengths in a plan. And so clinical psychology is really good about developing a treatment plan. And you can take positive psychology and develop a positive treatment plan instead of a symptom-based treatment plan. And so then your whole like approach to doing help is growing positive things instead of reducing negative things. And that's really what we're doing here with positive psychology. And so Seligman is the guy who does the nuts and bolts of like the model as a whole. And so I want you to take away from this that Seligman is the big picture guy for positive psychology. And then this guy with the fun name, he is a very specific positive psychology practitioner. And so this is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. And he is the guy that developed the concept of flow. And so we're going to unpack that here a little bit. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, how those letters equal those words is beyond me, but that's what I'm told how it means, how it sounds. All right, so I see somebody's mic is on. Just check your mic, make sure you don't have any background noise coming through. So the best moments in our lives are not the passive, receptive, relaxing times. The best moments usually occur if a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. So this is getting us closer to some of the concepts behind flow. And that was Dr. Csikszentmihalyi that said it. So flow is not just the lady in the Progressive commercial. It's a state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience is so enjoyable that people will continue to do it even at the great cost for the sheer sake of doing it. So I don't know about you guys, but have you ever experienced something that's super enjoyable that you like seek it out?
Like
Oh, yeah.
really hard video games.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm a
Video
big fan
games.
of that.
Me and my art, it's just like I can do that for 2-3 hours straight and not even think about it.
Music,
Yeah.
Anytime I'm performing on stage.
Writing stories.
music performance, all that.
Yep.
Music, playing chess.
There you go.
Yeah, same. Music.
Peace of
mind.
So you guys are identifying the activities where you experience flow. And so let's break it down so that we can see a little bit about it, because what I think is really cool is the more you become intentional about flow, the more you realize that not only is it a real thing, but you can use it to your benefit. And so it's a state of consciousness when people find genuine satisfaction, and there's ways that you break it down. Some of the things are timelessness, complete absorption in a task. It's especially true when it's using your creative abilities, and you guys brought up a lot of those activities that are creative. It's when you feel a sense of strength, alertness, effortless control. Those are flow activities. And so there's 9 elements involved in flow. There's clear goals every step of the way. There's immediate feedback to your actions. There's a balance between challenges and skills, and action and awareness are merged. Distractions are excluded. There's no worry of failure. Self-consciousness disappears, and your sense of time becomes distorted, and the activity becomes its own reward. So this is really cool to me. I played the drums for about 10 years. And when I would sit down and practice something new, it was very difficult to reach a flow state. But what I noticed is the more I practiced, a new sticking pattern, the better I got at it. And as I got better at it, like it sort of just developed a mind of its own and took off. But I could never get there on new stuff, only on things that I practiced a lot. And so the cool thing is when I would, get really well practiced at something, I would start to like play and time would just sort of not matter anymore. I would lose time. I would lose that sense of time. And so video games are kind of the same way. Have you ever played video games for like hours on end and you're really into it because you've played it, a lot, maybe you're good at it. And, you miss lunch, or somebody comes in and they're like, what have you been doing all this time? I've been playing a game. It's been like hours. And you're like, nah, it hasn't been that many hours, right? It's not just because you're a slacker. I mean, it might be, but it's probably more along the lines of the fact that you were in a flow state and you're having fun. And so these are the things that come up with flow. So there's three main conditions: goals, balance, and feedback. So when I was talking about the playing the drums part, if I did not have my practicing done on what I was doing, I couldn't reach flow. But if I had practiced, there's a balance between how hard something is and how good I am at it. And so if I'm good enough at what I'm trying to do to master it, then the flow state is easier to achieve. And so if what you're doing is, interesting, we're going to tie that to goals if you're into it. And then there's got to be feedback immediately. And so for playing the drums, there's like immediate feedback because you hit a drum, it makes a noise. And so if you're off a little bit, there's immediate feedback that your timing is off. And so I think drums are a really good example here because the feedback is so immediate. Like you have to learn how to feel if you're in time. And if you're not in time, chances are you can feel that your timing is off. So there's super quick feedback. And so same thing kind of applies here with video games, and you can do it with whatever your activity is. For John asks, what about an acoustic guitar? Absolutely. Anything that you're doing that's interesting to you is relevant here. I use the drums and video games because those are what my life have been about. But certainly any kind of instrument, any kind of video game, even reading, like if you just get into a book, there's like these same things happen. And that's why when you're reading a book, you'll totally get lost in that book because you've entered a flow state. Cool. So you guys kind of gave me a pretty good example of when you've achieved your flow states. I'm not going to do this flow video because it's not very good. So I guess one of the things I want you to know before we get into wellness, flow is related to what we studied last week in the qualities of play. We had the diminished consciousness of self and freedom from time. Those are two of the qualities of play, and those are aspects of flow. So what I want you to see is all month, as you are doing the reading, you're going to know that the things we talk about, they're all connected. And so while we're studying, certain concepts each week, you're going to find that there are common connecting points between each week. And so here with flow, we're actually teaching concepts that we teed up last week with the qualities of play. And there's other stuff too, like time batching is very important for how you do flow. Peak performance time is totally related to flow. So all these things are really going to go connecting to each other. And you don't necessarily have to, jump through too many hoops to say that back to us. But I think it's good to advocate for the fact that our stuff really does connect each week. Okay. How we doing? Everybody okay?
Yes, sir. All good.
All right.
We're good.
Yep.
Cool.
Good.
Ain't awake.
All
We're
right.
good.
Pretty
I've been out here.
Good.
So
And
we're going to switch over to wellness. And within wellness, we're going to talk about the PERMA model. So what is this wellness thing? What is wellness about? Any brave definers out there?
Maybe a way to be healthy in your activity and your mental activity and your physical activity.
Sure, yeah. Nice.
Find particularly by your thought process and how positive that is moving forward. I think centering entirely on negativity, I'd say, would affect your well-being in definition.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Yeah, it's basically the idea of, are you okay? And so, yeah, advocating for yourself, advocating for being healthy, taking steps to improve how you feel, coping mechanisms that you do, investments in your happiness, whatever that ends up being. Play can be a wellness activity. Disconnecting can be a wellness activity. Conversations that you have with people can totally be wellness activities. If you're, trying to improve relationships or establish healthy boundaries with people, really advocating for healthy boundaries with people is a wellness thing, at least in my life. Anything that you do to make an investment in yourself being okay. And so, remember we were talking about Martin Seligman earlier as our big picture guy for positive psychology. And what we're going to show you here is the PERMA model, and it is an acronym. And this comes from Seligman. And so the PERMA model, it breaks down what you can do every day to increase your wellness. And so we're going to go through these pretty quick. So these are things you can do every day to be okay. The first thing that you can do is to every day experience positive emotion, because they are an essential part of our well-being. Happy people look back on the past with gladness, they look into the future with hope, and they enjoy and cherish the present. And so as you're looking at positive psychology, this is a model that says every day we do little things that as a whole equal wellness or happiness. And so this is kind of a Captain Obvious moment that in order to have, wellness, you have to have positive emotions every day. And then the next thing is engagement. When we focus on doing the things we truly enjoy and care about, we can begin to engage completely with the present moment and enter the state of being known as flow. So when you're involved in stuff, you enjoy them more. Or when you're engaged, you enter the flow state. And so, like I was saying earlier, with flow being goal-driven and immediate feedback and a balance between challenge and skill, you've got to engage with stuff in order to reach flow. And so every day, if you're involved in what your day is about, then that's one of the steps. The next one is relationships. Everyone needs someone. When we enhance our well-being and share it with others by building strong relationships with the people around us, family, friends, coworkers, and neighbors. We're wired for connection. And so by having some relational thing every day, that's a step that you can take towards wellness. And then meaning, we're at our best when we dedicate time to something greater than ourselves. It can be religious, it can be community stuff, it can be family, politics, a charity, a professional or creative goal, but we want our lives to have meaning. And so things that we do every day that bring meaning to our lives are part of the PERMA model. And then accomplishment. Everyone needs to win sometimes. To achieve well-being and happiness, we must be able to look back on our lives with a sense of accomplishment, feeling like we did it and we did it well. And so when you look at these things together, these are the steps that you can do every day towards being okay. And it's really interesting. I've actually started to use this with my clients because I can help them break down, like, here are the little steps that you can do every day to like have a good day. And so just being aware of these things, they're, I think they're fairly obvious as each item, but when you put them together and, see them as a cohesive like model, then it's really cool. Miles, are you asking what my profession is? Yeah, I'm a therapist. I teach and I do counseling. I think this video is good. I'm gonna push this video to you guys. I'm gonna put this in the chat box, and what I would like for you to do is make sure you have the chat box open, and then watch this video, and when you're finished, just tell me done in the chat box, and that'll let me know that you're done. To be honest, I haven't played this today, so I hope it's going to work. Let me know. All right, sounds like you guys are finishing up with the video. So do you guys have any questions about flow and positive psychology, wellness and PERMA?
Nope.
All right.
No questions.
I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, I'm pretty straight.
I'm fine.
All good.
All right.
How come my screen just turned green?
I'll fix it.
I believe it's because he disconnected the
Okay,
window.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
No
My
worries.
screen was stuck like halfway through the slide.
yeah. It was stuck
Okay.
through the animation of closing the application.
Mine too.
Yeah. You're good.
Hopefully now you see the brain rules slide.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Sir.
Right.
Excellent.
I do see it.
All right. So more cute photos of my family. Yay. I'm a therapist. Yay. All right. So let's go through the material on changing your perception and the brain. A couple of other small things, and then we'll go through the homework. Let me close this, open that. So many things to manage with Zoom, it's crazy. Optimism. So what is this optimism stuff?
It's someone who can find the silver lining out of anything.
Say it again.
Someone who can find the silver lining out of any situation.
Yeah, nice. Yep,
Someone who sees the glass half full.
yes.
Someone who sees the good in everyone.
I like your answers all better than mine. I have to read mine because it's on the slide.
Answering in like a psychological kind of like philosophy kind of thing. So it's like, nah, I was just gonna say, oh, you know.
Cool. So the tendency to expect the best possible outcome or find the most hopeful aspect of a situation. And you guys got it. You got it right. Good job. Then there's also pessimism. And so that's like the opposite, right?
Like people with negative.
Yep.
It was like just like negative, just about
Yeah.
They always find a negative in a situation. They'll person get $1 million and be like, I got $1 million, but it's all 20s. You know, they always got negative to say.
There's more common sense involved, though.
I actually agree. I think pessimism is deeply tied to realism, to be honest. It's more grounded, in my opinion, but that's
I think they go hand in hand, to be honest.
You need a balance, otherwise they can both be really harmful.
Yeah,
definitely.
I agree.
Pessimism would just be like a sense of common sense. Like, yeah, I could go spend this $1 million, but what happens when my car breaks down?
Mhm. That's interesting. I have not had someone say that it's the most like common sense. That's actually kind of what we help. We connect that. Like, should we all be optimistic all the time, right?
Too much
No.
optimism can hinder you to realize that, like, yeah, it's good to be positive, but sometimes when you actually think about it, it's better to have some pessimism. Yeah, it's like yin yang, exactly.
Sometimes you need to know, like, you got to have some sense of like realism to what is actually going on, and I feel like sometimes being optimistic in those scenarios can actually hinder you.
Yep.
I think that if you're blinding yourself to like what's actually happening around you and you're, you know, not seeing what's actually happening and denying it, then that's bad. But I think in almost every other situation, it's a pretty good thing to have.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Find
ignorance can be
optimism.
bliss, though.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think at a baseline, if everything is good, nothing can be great, and everything is mediocre by proxy. I think that's
Right.
kind of a good baseline to base it as.
One of my favorite
Worse
things that
than
I say. Yep, I was about ready to say that. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
If you plan ahead and you structure, whatever it is, I guess the topic you're talking about, if you set yourself up for success, then I don't think that it could be wrong be an optimist because you've already took the proper steps. You know what I mean? But then again, of course, if we're talking about real world, we're talking about like philosophy like that, then of course the world is kind of bad in certain aspects. There's things that yeah, it could be pessimist could be confused with realism, but I do think they do definitely have a very critical difference.
Yeah.
Because like an optimist can still find like success through failure, like they learned something. So.
Yep. Yeah, I am enjoying the discussion that you guys are having. The takeaway that we have for this segment of the material is it's not good to be all of one or the other. If you're too optimistic, you could be idealistic and you could get taken advantage of. If you're pessimistic, it could be very depressing, right? In my previous job where I was a therapist, my job was to bring positivity to kids who had been, abused. But the irony of the situation was most of the time justifying treatment was by the system trying to throw the therapist under the bus. And so I had to learn how to be very pessimistic about what people were going to try to do to get me and my program in trouble, because what they wanted to do was pull the funding away. And so I had to learn how to be very pessimistic in my look at everything that was going on. I had to make sure that everybody was being appropriate. I had to assume all of the adults were doing the wrong thing. And I had to rely on documentation to make sure that we were doing them the right thing. And so by having the entire system based on making sure everybody was proving that what they were doing was the right things to be doing, that we were doing the best effort to be transparent, I had to be very pessimistic about what I thought people could say we were doing. And when I could be the biggest pessimist in the program, I could keep everybody safe. That was a very difficult burden to bear as a person. And so I had to do a whole lot of investment in my wellness. And so I had to have very, very healthy boundaries around work, because my job was to be what could go wrong here? And what are we making sure that we do in order to make sure that we're not? And so I just have to assume the worst case scenario in every situation so that we can plan for that and expect that that's never the thing that actually happened. So I worked in a specialized therapeutic group home, which was basically like a psychiatric home for foster kids, but there were no walls. And it was kids who had been previously in a locked type of setting, and they were in an unlocked type of setting. And so instead of using walls and medicine, we used words to keep everybody there and safe. And so my job was to be able to handle the biggest behaviors and the biggest, scariest things that people could try to do in order to, make sure that everything was going to work out okay. Anyway, so optimism and pessimism is, take a look at what are the messages that you are feeding your internal dialogue, and what purpose do those messages serve? Think about the wellness stuff that we were just talking about. Here are all of these positive things that you can do to improve your wellness. In the job where I was in, I had to do a whole lot of those things in order to counteract the pessimism that I had to have as my internal messaging because I was in a very negative situation. And so I was also in a leadership situation. And so I had to make sure that I was, the one who was taking the hits for the group. So optimism and pessimism is taking a look at your internal messaging and asking, is this serving a good purpose? And do I need to adjust it based on how I'm applying this messaging to myself? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Cool. All right, so we're gonna make a little turn here.
That planning for every like possible negative situation that you were talking about kind of reminds me of something I read in 48 Laws of Power.
Oh yeah.
You should check out that book each and you can text and see what you think about it.
Yeah, I think I will. I'm writing it down. Very cool.
What was it called?
Oh yeah, of course. Well, everybody, if you have a chance, it's called 48 Laws of
Power.
Yeah, I wrote that down too. I was gonna check that out too.
It's a good read.
Granted, it can seem, because we were having a conversation about, realism and pessimist, the difference between that. And I think the guy because he wasn't the person who created those 48 laws. He's, if you go, there's audiobooks. I like to listen to audiobooks. But the guy who is presenting it or narrating the book does a great job saying it, and you could tell he's adapted to like all of those rules. And just keep in mind though, it can seem kind of negative. Like for me, I took it in a positive sense. And I told I had a conversation during dinner with a few nights ago with my not a few nights, maybe a couple months ago with my mom and my family, and she checked it out and she hit me back. She's like, "This is negative. This is like what dictator kings back in the day used to do to people." I don't know, but I thought you guys might like it. So yeah.
That's cool. I'll just say real quick before we move on. One of the things you're going to get in week 4, I kind of talked about a little bit already. We're going to talk about the golden circle later. And so the premise for that is inspiration instead of manipulation. And so when you talk about the 48 laws of power, that sounds like something I want to read, because behaviorism has power as part of what it's about. Psychology is about, experimentation through using different methods, and those methods can seem like there's manipulation involved. And so power and manipulation are kind of closely related. The golden circle you guys are going to get into later, and it's about inspiring people. And so in the way that we do, authority and leadership, is it about manipulation or is it about inspiration? And so that's a philosophical question for later in the month, but just know what we're getting at here. It's all related. So good job. Awesome conversation. I'm digging it. So this is kind of a silly question here. What forms of play are good for our brains? It's an obvious answer. Every form of play is good for your brain. And so this is my buddy Terrence from years ago. He tried out for Big Brother. And I do a little bit of chess, and Terrence does a whole lot of chess. And so he's like, he's a master chess player. He has a chess club here in Orlando. I do chess with my therapy clients. Normally they're kids. And so I teach therapy concepts about life and strategy and layers of meaning through playing chess. And so chess is an awesome way to do fun.
Hey, I wasn't counting, not trying to cut you off. I wasn't counting. How many moves was that?
As few as possible, I'm sure.
Not a lot is the answer.
Look like 6 moves.
But the whole idea was to make him look good because he was sending in his audition for Big Brother.
Oh, okay. So you trying to say that wasn't a real game? That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I'm way better than that.
Okay.
I will say it takes more mental thinking to lose chess than it does to win.
Yeah. Maybe that's my problem.
I'm good at chess because I could move without thinking.
That's so funny.
You guys should watch The Queen's Gambit on Netflix.
I've seen that, but I haven't checked it out yet. The Queen's Gambit. I for some reason I won't check it out.
It has a 10 out of 10, dude. It's actually really good. Me and my roommate watched it last week, and we finished it in a night. It was pretty. It was
Okay, I'm gonna check that out.
7 episodes, hour long. It's not too bad.
What is that show supposed to be about, Queen's Gambit?
It's based on a book of like basically how this player became a grandmaster at chess, and it's really cool. Like it's it's hard to explain without giving too much away, but it just starts when she's like a child, and it goes through her like career of even going to Russia and playing against them. It's just a really good show. It's hard to make chess interesting, and I think they did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, it goes into issues about addiction and stuff like that. A lot of deeper issues that kind of relate back to her career in chess.
I'm definitely gonna watch that now.
Oh yeah, that definitely sounds like it might pique my interest. But what is this other thing? Is like he said, oh, he plays chaos chess. Like, what is that? The next level? I don't know if you.
Yeah, I think there's
It's just completely random and doesn't make sense. It's no strategy, no forethought. Just okay, you're gonna go there. I'll go here. Let's see what you'll do next.
I think
That's how I play, and I pretty much always lose.
I think my 7-year-old probably plays chaos chess and just doesn't know it.
Every time I've challenged somebody, I think I've asked them to play chess, but really I was asking them to play chaos chess.
All right, I got another video for you guys. I'm gonna put this in the chat box. Kind of the same thing as last time. When you finish watching it, let me know that you're done. And the reason why I'm doing this way, I would normally just show them on my screen, but this makes it so that we don't get copyright violations through Zoom. And so this just works out better. So you're not going to see it on my screen, obviously, but just go watch this video and let me know when you're finished with it. It's in the chat box.
Is it just? Am I the only one that's getting video unavailable?
I can see it just fine.
I can see it too.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. Never mind.
This looks like some old Bill Nye the Science Guy stuff.
Speaks a lot of truth, though.
All right, sounds like you guys are finishing up. So the idea here is that we do better whenever we are active. And so think about earlier how they were talking about with wellness, it's good to, make personal investments in your, your health and being okay. And so some of the things you can do is get up and move. We are wired to be able to be moving all day. And so as a result of that, when your brain is engaged and your body is engaged, it helps your brain more. And so that whole idea, like engagement being a big part of it, we get that through the exercise here. And so if you're designed to be, walking miles every day, the reason it's like that is because that's the way the brain learns better. And so it's just kind of an advocating thing here for how the brain is in better shape when the body is pushed. And so, yes, we saw the evolutionary connection there with the guy getting eaten. Kind of a weird video. But anyway. So
I've been sleeping in the open.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't sleep in the middle of a field. Something might drag you away. So with the whole idea that our brains work better through exercise, there's another thing too, that our brains change over time, right? And so what we're going to get into from this brain rule is the idea of neuroplasticity. So it comes down to wiring. So what you do and learn in life can physically change your brain. So there is a video in the reading about neuroplasticity. And so the link I have here is the same video, so I'm not going to share that right now. But neuroplasticity is the changing of the structure, function, and organization of the neurons or nerve cells in response to new experiences. So as we learn, our brains make connections between neurons. As we gain new experiences and information, our brains reroute their own circuitry for improved functioning. And these neural connections are the fabric of our brains. So I'm going to show you guys, this is probably in your reading too. This just kind of gives you the synapses that are in your brain. And so what it looks like for a newborn is there's not so many of them. They're kind of spread out. But as you grow, more of those connections are made. And so by the time you get to 2 years old, there's just super thick amounts of connections, right? And so after 2 years, what happens is you actually start the process of synaptic pruning. And so those connections that are not being used are actually pruned away. And so what ends up happening is as you prune away the stuff that's not being used, the stuff that is being used becomes more reinforced. And so I don't know if any of you guys do any gardening, but my wife does a whole lot. And I have to help prune the hedges and stuff, right? And so as you prune back a bush or a tree, it makes it so that the stuff that isn't pruned grows stronger. And that's what's happening here. As your brain prunes off the connections that are not necessary, the ones that are get used a lot more, and they become a whole lot more solid and reliable. And so what happens is sometimes we have injuries and parts of the brain get damaged, right? And so the neuroplasticity is not just those connections being made the first time, it can rewire itself to overcome damage. And so because of the brain's, use of these synapses that are close together, it'll actually find next door neighbors of some of these connections, and it'll try to accomplish the same outcome by using the close by neighbor cells. And so that's what neuroplasticity is. It's the rewiring of the brain to use new neurons to accomplish old skills that have been lost. And that's a really cool thing. I had a young lady that I dated in high school. She was in a car accident, and she had some brain damage, and she lost a lot of the use of, the left side of her body. And this is a very real thing for me, because she regained, a whole bunch of the skills that she had lost through that injury. And so neuroplasticity is what caused her brain to rewire itself to turn on the left side of her body again. And that's what ended up happening. It took a lot of training and a lot of therapy, but that's what physical therapy does. And it helps use neuroplasticity to, over a period of time, retrain the brain how to make those connections. And so that's what neuroplasticity is. Cool. Yeah, it's very interesting. All right. I think that is about it. Why is it important to understand how the brain works? Because you have to know how something works before you can fix it. One of the things that I've learned is if I don't know very much, I'm not very good at fixing things. But I have learned that I can do things if I learn how to do it. When it comes to, I'm a grown-up, I guess now, and I have a house and I have to fix things. And I am not a fixer-upper kind of guy, but I have learned that I have a lot more abilities than I thought I did if I learn how to do those things. And so one of the things that I have learned is that I can be taught, but I have to know the things to do before I can go carry those things out. And that's what we're getting at here with our teaching on the brain. All right, let's do this. Let's take about a 5-minute break, and I'm gonna allow you guys to, go take a break if you want to, but you can hang out and talk if you would like, visit with each other, share information if you want. We'll start back at about 2:11, and we'll go through the assignment stuff. All right, I'm gonna turn my microphone off. I'm gonna go check on my kids, and then I will come back and we will finish up. Cool?
Enough.
Seems like everybody's getting their iPad now.
Mom literally just walked into my room.
Wait,
and
what
just
is up?
gave
What
it
is
to
up
me.
with that? I got very confused. What's up with that?
I'm overseas,
It
so
depends
I'm
on
not
the
getting it for
course
another
you're
month.
in.
Okay.
Not that I've.
So I'm
Well,
sitting
are
here.
you conditions, right?
I think the game program
Yes.
ones, game design, game development, got the iPad.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I got a Mac.
Yeah, I got the
I think-
MacBook. I got the
yeah, I was
MacBook. So I
gonna
was like,
say,
confused.
journalism gets Mac.
Okay.
I'm in creative writing for fine arts, and mine came.
This
Mine's
is so
coming
cool.
today.
I
I
just
got my iPad today and then my Mac in like
I got an
3
Apple book,
months.
Apple MacBook too.
I
That's
feel
crazy.
like, I feel like we're a part of the souls.
I've never
So,
owned an Apple product in my life.
By the way,
Me
for the
neither,
first
girl.
week, for the first
I've
week
like
for
never had an
everyone-
iPad before, so it's really hard for
I'm
me
the
to
idiot that bought
navigate.
the first iPhone for $700 when the only
Hey
thing that
Siri,
it could
send a
freaking do
message.
was go on MySpace. So that was dumb. I've had.
I should have ripped that.
Hear me at all?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, cool.
Really? We don't get the fucking computer till after the 4 months.
Yeah, I think you have to complete the core 4 classes before you get that.
Oh, I'm excited for that though.
We get
I've never had an Apple product, so this is very weird to me.
Yeah, I've never had an
Yeah,
Apple product
it's
either.
very weird to me too.
Some of you
Oh,
Are you all right order already?
Yo, what's his name? Courtney. I saw that you're also from Buffalo.
Yeah,
What are you going to school for?
music production.
Oh, awesome, dude. No, I'm
There we
for game
go.
design, but that's just cool to see somebody else in the same town. Like I'm right in Blaisdell, so I'm literally Route 5 away.
Yep. I'm in Kenmore, so yeah, you're not far.
Yeah.
Is anybody from Virginia?
I am.
I used to be.
I'm in Virginia right now.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Anybody in
repping.
film and digital cinematography?
I'm from Detroit, man. Anybody from Detroit? This is my real one.
Used to be.
Texas.
I'm from North Carolina, so
Carolina.
Carolina's a nice area.
I'm from
Carolina's
Maine.
so
Anybody
nice.
from Maine?
yeah, it really is.
Anybody
I used
from
to live up
Maine?
in the mountain.
Oh
Everybody,
no!
I hear
California,
Maine has good
North
lobster.
Carolina.
Anybody
Whenever
from
you guys
Maine?
want a trip, come visit Hawaii, bro. We out here.
I want
I'm like originally from Florida though, so like I was so excited to move back and stuff, and then quarantine happened, and
Yeah, I
I'm
feel-
just doing
Where in
online
Florida?
classes at home. I am from Vero Beach originally.
Oh, okay, I was born in
Yeah.
Sarasota. I don't know how I ended up in Buffalo. but-
Sarasota's so pretty.
Yeah, it's really nice. I went to Destin recently, and it is gorgeous over there. Oh my gosh.
I live in the city. There's nothing much to look at here.
Yeah, no,
It's
I'm
literally nothing. It's cold.
It's cold.
So a lot of y'all never seen snow before. A lot of y'all.
Oh,
seen it like
yeah, I've only
twice.
seen snow for like 3
Yeah.
years.
If
I
you
live in
Ohio's
Utah,
so cold right now.
and I live at the base of a ski resort, so I know what snow is.
It
Oh,
did.
Yeah, I wish. I love snow.
Bro,
Yesterday,
come to
now it's supposed
Ohio.
to be 70 in
It
like 2
literally
days.
snowed yesterday.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
it
Really?
I mean,
I haven't
no, a
seen
lot of
snow
people
in
like
like
snow until
4
they
years.
have to drive in it. So
No,
Oh,
it's
It
snow.
snowed in August.
That's
here.
true.
Right.
In
I think I remember
in Ohio, we
they
get-
shut down
Virginia.
schools.
Already.
yeah,
Oh,
in
okay.
Texas, we
The
got
fuck am I doing?
like not even snow, just like ice on the roads, and they canceled school for like 3 days.
Oh, dude, we get like 1 inch of snow, and they immediately cancel.
We get
high
like
school
2
and stuff.
feet,
It's crazy.
and my school's like
Courtney has
2 hour
my
delay.
reaction.
That's
Yeah, it's a solid 90 degrees where I'm at.
You get like 6 feet of snow and they're still like up.
Yeah, like, all right.
Yep, same.
So
What snow?
It's a
Clouds will
straight
be out.
day here though. It's like 55 degrees, sunny day. It's straight. It's a straight day.
It's very nice out today. I
Oh,
need to
yeah.
go
Ohio's
dog for a
literally
walk.
nothing but corn. What do you mean? There's nothing interesting about Ohio. It's just corn.
The
Corn's
bagel.
delicious. I love
Have
corn.
the Agora
They don't
Ballroom.
hate
That
no
place is
corn.
pretty nice.
It's 36 here.
throw it on a grill.
He made corn.
Nice
scary.
90 degrees.
I like corn. You know,
90 degrees.
corn on the cob,
Corn's
corn is
delicious, bro.
Yeah.
Oh,
You ever
I
had
like-
those like corn puppies where they like take corn and they put it in like a they bread it and deep fry it?
That
Yeah.
sounds disgusting.
I mean,
I know, but it's delicious. I love it.
It's fucking
It has some pretty good places.
All your setups are better than mine.
Yeah, I'm just in bed playing Animal Crossing right now. So
Yeah.
I'm
I
on
just
my
got
couch.
Genshin Impact on my iPad, and I'm really
yeah, I
excited
just-
to play it.
I've been doing that on
No more
PS4 for a
zeros.
while.
Fucking
Yeah,
no
half
more
of you guys have like very
There we go.
stream-like setups. So
half of y'all are streamers.
I'm in the
Yeah.
Hey, are
It's
are
fine.
we all
Yeah.
of
Hey,
play
kitty.
class? We've been in the amount of time in school. Like, is this
Yeah.
right after creative course?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like the same. It's like the same order. I think the next class is when it differs a little
Yeah.
bit.
Because you guys
It's one that
all,
follows your thing.
you guys all in different.
Can you guys
these are-
hear me at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, for the guys that are using the iPad 7th generation, I just want you guys to all know, I don't know if you are on the Discord or not, the iPad 7th generation can only use an Apple Pencil 1st generation. So if you're
Okay.
into art and stuff,
So
or
yeah,
using
this.
Oof.
I was
So that means
actually-
you gotta buy another
there you go.
accessory.
Yeah, Colton's got
Oh,
it.
geez.
So if you
Send-
do plan to
send
use
Apple your
accessories,
money.
do not buy the Apple Pencil Generation 2. It
I've
will not
seen
even
other
connect.
people opening their
Wow.
lunch
Like, yeah.
boxes and stuff, and they get the Apple Pencil with theirs.
That
Okay.
is,
That's
I
probably
know that
game
is
art.
under a couple of the classes.
That should be with the art one, right?
Yeah.
That should
Yeah,
be with our
yeah.
one,
I'm in
yes.
city
I'm
animation.
in-
I should have.
I'm in. I'm in
Yeah, I'm
game
doing
art,
game
so-
art. I should have one.
Right,
If you
in
don't,
game-
that's a
well, in
problem.
game art,
Yeah.
in game art, we're gonna get the Intio Swackum tablet, which is like
Yeah,
top
we
line
have the
tablet you could
tablet.
possibly
Yeah, I
get
got
right
my
now.
Intuos tablet. It's
But I'm already
it's so
set.
nice.
I've got my Huion Canvas 13 that I paid $300 for, so I've got.
See, I got a
There we go.
Cintiq and it broke within the first month of using it, and they refused to do my warranty.
If you want
Oh,
a Wacom,
gosh.
if you want a Wacom equivalent that has a good customer review and everything, I would say Huion Canvas. It's the best display model. Basically
My
drawing
camera won't
on
stay
the
still.
actual. Yeah.
Yeah,
They're-
Huion's pretty good
Just
too.
half the cost too.
Well, Huion
I'll
has
just plug their
went.
Discord.
Huion has went above and beyond Wacom to
Yeah,
the point that
if
you
you have-
can
we
actually
have a
connect it to
Discord
your
server.
phone now.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I might do that next time because Wacom's customer service. is
There's
not-
a Discord server?
There is.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
is.
Hang on, I'm
Yeah.
gonna add this. I'm
Somebody
gonna add this
drop-
person real quick. I'm adding.
This is the first time I'm
hearing.
hearing about this.
But yeah, add me on Discord and I'll invite you. I'm not gonna link
Are
the server because there's 2 different servers. I made one, somebody else made one, but I made another one because the other person.
I will toss my Discord into the chat real quick.
I just went ahead and I just
Cassie,
added.
are you in
so
the
I just
Full Sail
added,
group
but
one?
I'll send mine.
I'm in both.
You're in both of them. You're both in Full Sail and the.
And the
The
new
other one.
Full Sail one.
Mind
Oh, okay.
if I plop in my YouTube channel just for
Bet.
that guy? Just to be that guy.
As long as it's good. As long as it's good, man.
Do it.
Good shameless plug there.
All right. I did mute you guys all just real quick so I could start. But you can unmute yourself again. So let's go into the homework. Hold on, just one second. So let's look at the discussion board so that you guys have a good understanding about what we're doing this week. So when you come and look at the discussion board, it's, you know, a whole lot of content to look at and read through, and I get that. So what I want to do is kind of work backwards on this. The first thing I want to do is show you that you can get to the infographic by clicking on the orange here in number 1. Sometimes I get messages from students saying, I can't get back to the infographic. Can you send it to me? And so I don't need to send it to you. I'm showing you here where it is. So just click on the orange here. Some of you may already know this, but it brings up the infographic that you had in the call to play. Speaking of call to play, when does that call to play due? Do you guys know?
Thursday.
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 No,
yeah.
call to play is Tuesday. Sorry, call
Yeah.
to plays are Tuesdays. I was
Yep.
thinking of quests.
So the call to play is due tonight at midnight. And so in the call to play, you go do those questions about what do you like type stuff. And at the bottom of the call to play is that infographic. And so now I'm in the discussion board directions. And so I just want you to know that you can get back to that infographic here in the discussion board directions. So we're going to go through the infographic for the quests. And so my goal here is to talk to you about the deliverable files and what needs to be turned in as a deliverable file for each quest, because you're going to pick 2 quests and each one has a deliverable file that you need. So for quest 1, it's called Get Connected. You're going to organize an online meetup with family or friends. You're going to play a game or watch a movie or catch up on gossip. But the real kicker here is you're turning in a thing. And the thing that you're turning in is an infomercial or some type of presentation using screenshots or video clips from your online meetup discussing the emotional benefits of online social connection. And so what you're turning in here is a presentation. It can be an infomercial or video or screenshots, but like you're kind of doing 2 parts. And what I want you to know here is there's not like a super wrong way to do this, because it's not like up to me how you get connected with other people. Like I don't have that as part of what I expect. What I look for in this is, are you turning in a file that's got, you know, either screenshots or video or some sort of, you know, image, and it is impressing upon me, the, you know, consumer of the presentation, with why is it important to meet with people online. So the inspiration behind this was we are going through this pandemic where we can't get together and hang out, and you guys are online students, so you're not going to get together and hang out twice as much, right? So you can't get together with your classmates, but you can virtually get together with your friends, people around you. And so there's a wellness component to that, right? Think about all of the stuff we just talked about with wellness, about how it's good to make some sort of investment in yourself by connecting with other people. So that's what this is about. It's just reaching out, connecting with other people, and then presenting that in some type of presentation. And so for Get Connected, you're going to turn in an infomercial or presentation, and it's going to be discussing the emotional benefits of online social connection. And so let's say you're turning in an infomercial. Your infomercial, you know, it could be, it's probably going to be like, you could do like an Adobe Spark presentation, right? And so in that Adobe Spark presentation, you could just have screenshots as your images, and then have some accompanying text below it talking about why it's good to connect online. And so there's not like a wrong answer to that. It's whatever you advocate for, as long as you can identify and develop your thoughts, that's what we're looking at. There's not necessarily a right answer as to why it's important, but man, you could do some cool things by bringing up wellness in your infomercial. Makes sense?
I actually have a question for Quest 1.
Okay.
Since we're kind of living in the age of podcasts, you know, there's so many different kinds. If we were to just do Quest 1 in the form of like, you know, a discussion podcast of the topic that you've given us, and then submitting that, would that also work like as a presentation, or?
It would certainly be an okay presentation. I would recommend that you still do the connecting with somebody and have that as part of your commentary about why it was good to do.
To piggyback off this question, would we have extra credit if we also did a podcast with a fellow Full Sail student?
No, but hold
Would
on to
be
that because
available?
there's going to be something very similar to that in coming weeks.
Okay.
So I'll say that, you know, you brought up a good point. Like, what about extra credit? So there are not very many opportunities for extra credit in psychology of play because we are working a lot on a student by student basis to make sure that if you miss things, that you have an opportunity to turn them in. And so we have so many things that we have created. You really want to look at talking to your instructor if you miss something, because we work with you to make sure that you don't get behind to where you need extra credit. So don't let doing something extra be an extra burden to you. We try to make sure that we get you on the right page before you need extra credit.
Okay, because I was told I needed extra credit for missing my first week. I thought class started on the 2nd. I was gravely mistaken.
Yeah. Okay. So reach out to your instructor. Yeah.
No extra credit.
Say it again.
I'm sorry.
I thought it said somewhere in the thing that there was not going to be any extra credit.
No, but they assigned me extra credit to make up for my loss from the 26th of October, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So follow up with your instructor about what particularly you need to do before we say that it's like, you know, a universal thing here for everybody.
Even if, because if there is, and then I have another question on top of that as well. Even if we, you know, what if we just want more credit?
Yep. So when you get into stuff like that, you want to talk to your instructor and find out what is acceptable to your instructor. So there's 14 of us, okay, who teach the class. And in this lecture, we've probably got 5 instructors. And so I can't speak for all 5 of them and I don't know everything that they're doing. Generally, we try to make sure that we help you get caught up. And so if you've got a situation where extra credit is the workflow that you're lined up with from your instructor, you want to follow up with them and find out how to accomplish, your individualized thing. For general purposes, we want to make sure that we do what's on the infographic here the correct way as a group. And so let's make sure that as a group, the main way to do the main work, because I want you to get 100 on the big stuff way more than I want a few of you to get the extra 10 points on the small stuff. I still want you to get all the points, right? I want you to get 110 if you need it, but I want everyone else to get 100 too. And so the best way to do that is turn in some sort of presentation, because the presentations that you guys had hypothetically were totally fine. There's no wrong way to do what you guys brought up. Those are perfectly good. You can do a podcast. But what you want to do is make sure you do what it lays out here by going and doing that meetup with family and friends, and then have your podcast be about that experience and how it was good.
Well,
Make sense?
What I was stating about the podcast is like if we did a podcast with those family and friends, like that was our meetup, and we just recorded the meetup and then discussing that, and then also do that. But you would also like us to also do the PowerPoint or the Adobe Spark part of it.
No, you don't need to do both. That podcast idea was perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then just explaining it with like a 5 to 6 paragraphs, 100 to 150 words.
Yep, I'm going to get back to that part in a minute. Yes, because your quest here is going to be in support of your initial post. So these are just the quests, and then you're bringing up the initial post. We'll get back to that in just a minute. Let's go to quest 2. Quest 2 is a weekly plan, and so this is the same as it was last week. You can do the weekly plan twice. We do want to make sure that if you do the weekly plan twice, that you do a little bit of a switch up each week. We don't want you to have the exact same file turned in twice. We want you to identify unique events that happen in different weeks. And so you want to, where is it? It's down here. Are you guys able to see this? Let me see. Let me do this.
No, not yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a new screen share and show. So here's the weekly plan. You want to fill out 1 item each day. Well, you really want 3 items each day for the work, and then 1 item each day for play, fit, and push. When you go into the week 1 reading, the weekly plan is in the week 1 reading. And so if you did not do the weekly plan last week and you want to do it this week, head back over to the week 1 reading and read about the weekly plan, because it's got some example type stuff in there. But you want to have 3 items every day for work, and it's just things that involve effort in your life. It does not have to be, going to work. It's things that you do that require effort, like washing the dishes, walk the dog, I don't know, bathe the cat, whatever you do. Bathe the cat. And then 1 item every day for play, fit, and push. Yep, main idea here is don't turn in the same file twice, because we have had that happen.
So, Mr. Barnett,
yes,
I have a question.
Okay.
So, I'm the type of person that I like to exercise a lot. Sometimes I do 50 push-ups and 50 sit-ups. And can I switch it up? And can I put in there, do 30 for 30? That's what I'm planning to do this week.
Yeah, in fact, for some people that would be like a fit thing. For some people it would be a push thing. And so that would be totally fine. One of the things that we try to encourage you to do is to have different items each day. And so like if you do different exercises on different days, that would be a really good way to do it. Yeah. But yeah, it's totally fine to have those activities as part of your plan.
Thank you. Sure.
Lost my chat box. Let me get my chat box back. There we go. All right. So quest 3 is learn a new skill. This one, I want to go through this. Typically, this is the one people try to change up a little bit. Choose an activity you have never done before that requires repetition for improvement, like juggling, doing a cartwheel, drawing a cartoon, playing a musical instrument, dribbling a basketball, stuff like that. Practice this activity over the course of several sessions. And so the creative deliverable is document yourself practicing on video and describe how your perception of the activity changed over time. So think about how we talked about optimism and pessimism earlier. And the idea there was changing your perception. So the creative deliverable here is a video. And the video is going to be documenting how your perception of this activity changed. So one of the things that comes up is students say, I want to do something like what I already do. I have a lot of folks who will do, a type of art, and what they want to do is art that they're familiar with. And so the idea here is not to show us how good you are. The idea here actually is to show us how bad you are. And so it's not, so Alexander, great question. Can I learn a new technique on guitar, or does it have to be a brand new skill? It needs to be a brand new skill. And so I would not go try to show you a new, go ahead.
If you're in music, don't do something music.
If you're a drummer, don't go show a new drum technique.
What if it's a skill that you've forgotten? Like you don't have any skill in it anymore.
I would say do the ones that we recommended, and you're way more likely to have no problems, because what happens is people go do things that are not recommended, and I can't tell you how it's going to go. Like I can't predict your instructor's expectation when you veer away from the directions. And so, but I have every month students who turn in something very different. And I do not take off for them doing something very different. But what I notice is they're generally pretty good at doing the things that they turn in, which means they didn't learn a new skill. They didn't really want to look bad on camera. And so like, we're not going to grade you down if you do something that you're actually familiar with. It's just try to make sure that you stay as close to the directions here. Because the main thing you're doing is you're turning in a video that is talking about changing your perception. And so that's the real content here. The content is not the activity that you're doing. The content is, how did your perception change? And so students get really wrapped up in the actual activity, and they totally don't deliver on the concept. And so the concept is, how did your perception change? And so don't get too messed up on doing something, that you're more comfortable with, because the goal is not to mess with you. The goal is for you to talk about your perception changing. Does that make sense?
So let me see if I can break it down. So basically what it is the assignment is to try something new, something we haven't even tried. So we go from a negative way of thinking about it to a positive way of thinking, because when you first try something new that you're not good at, you kind of get down on yourself. But as you do something over and over again, you start getting more comfortable, and you start going like, yeah, I can do this. This is something I'm capable of doing.
Or vice versa.
Yes. Basically, yes. Yep.
I could use myself as a perfect example. I've been drawing for 18 plus years and want to slowly work over to digital. So probably me trying out something in the digital aspect would be a new outcome for that, because that's two different types of canvases. There's two different procedures on how that goes. Pencil and paper, I just go right to the paper. Digital, I've got to learn a program, so on and so forth.
If you have your iPad, I would suggest going with Procreate and using, because that is a good way to get into digital.
Yeah, that's one I mentioned.
Yep.
And to elaborate on what both of you are saying, I'm kind of a person that like to draw comic strips, you know, kind of, what's his name? Dr. Charles M. Schultz, the creator of the Peanuts comic strips. He's well known for making comic strips, so I try to be like him and try, because, you know, when I read his first read his bio, he said that you're not always going to get it right when you draw comic strips and stuff, and learn, like your case, digital, like you want to go into digital, so it takes time and process to elaborate and develop those skills in order to get better, you know?
Yep.
Agree.
So yeah, I don't want to harp on you guys too much about this one. Basically, you know, as long as you're turning in something that you're able to, you know, talk about how your perception changed, it's generally going to be fine. Just make sure that you don't go do something super similar for the sake of, you know, having something familiar. Because that's not the goal. The goal is to have it be unfamiliar so that you can talk about your perception changing. Having a hard time with perception today. All right, quest 4 is press play. And so for this one, you want to go listen to our podcasts. Select one of the Psychology of Play podcasts to listen to and reflect on your takeaways. You could listen to me and Dr. Clayton talk about anxiety, and that would be cool. That's one of them. Create an infographic or presentation highlighting the points that resonated with you. Must include visuals to accompany text. So when you look at the directions, I believe it takes you right to them. Yep. So here are the podcasts. You'll just come listen to one of these. This is me and Monica, Understanding and Dealing with Anxiety. But we have great podcasts that, you know, several of our coworkers have done. I think there may be one or two that are other folks as well. Anyway, you're going to come listen to one of these podcasts, and then you're going to turn in an infographic or presentation, just talking about what it is that resonated with you. Cool. Okay, so those are the quests. Now, those quests, when you look at the grading rubric, which is down here, completes creative deliverable for each quest. Those are 25 points. So the real thing I want you to think about here is, you know, they're fun projects to do. That's one thing, but they're 25% of the grade. The really big part is actually here in the directions, where we want you to write 3 paragraphs, and we want you to identify 2 concepts from the reading, okay? In your initial post, respond to the prompts below. Each written response must be at least a paragraph, 5 or 6 sentences, or 100 to 150 words for each of the essay questions. And so the first question you're going to answer is question number 2. Which quest did you choose, and describe each experience? Very often, when people lose points, they lose it because they said, I chose quests 2 and 3. And then they move on to question 3 or 4. For question 2, you want to write a full paragraph. And so you're going to be describing your experience. So be sure you don't miss out on the fact that there's a paragraph to write here describing your experience. And then question number 3 is, how do your quest experiences connect back to the reading material? And so we would like for you to underline those course concepts. And so things like neuroplasticity, perma, flow, creative blocks, The things that are in the reading material are what we want you to talk about here. So you want to identify, define, and apply 2 concepts, and that's a paragraph. And then question 4 is explain how completing these quests impacted your well-being. And so that's a paragraph as well. And so then question 5 is not actually like, it's not a paragraph you have to write, you're just inserting your deliverables for question number 5. So 3 paragraphs. In your second paragraph, you're going to have 2 concepts that you underline. Make sense? So that part gets you 15 points for length in writing and 20 points for the 2 concepts. And so then you have 2 response posts to do. So your response posts also need to be at least 5 sentences each. So if you are writing 1 or 2 sentences for your response posts, you're going to miss some points. You want to make sure that you develop your ideas a bit in your responses. And so it's 20 points for your 2 response posts. And there's one final thing that I need to bring up. Your initial post is due on Thursday. And so it says that up here in the title, right? And so let's say you missed the initial post. If you miss the initial post, what you can do is write 3 responses instead of 2 right here. If you write 3 response posts, you'll cancel out a late deadline. And we have that option available for you all month. So if you miss the initial post, you can make that initial post anytime between Thursday and Sunday still. And so if you make 3 responses, you can earn full credit. If you only do 2, you can still earn a 90% as your maximum amount. Whew. How we doing? It's a lot of information.
Doing good.
Doing pretty
Doing
good.
good.
Okay.
Nothing that we can't handle.
You right.
All right. So you guys had a lot of good questions going over the quests. I want to make sure that you are comfortable and that you have your questions answered. We are not late or going over, and we are still recording. So any questions that you guys might have could be helpful to those who come back and listen to the recording. So think about it for a second.
Hey, I got a quick question right quick. In regards to quest number 1, is it okay, because of social media, is it okay if we record like ourselves interacting with our loved one or our friend on FaceTime, if we can record ourselves talking to them or whatever, versus, you know, us actually being right beside them, if that's available?
Devane, also just real quick, letting you know, if you try to record a FaceTime, it won't bring you the audio. Just letting you know in advance.
On second thought, never mind about that question.
That was a great question that I would have gotten wrong. I'd have been like, yeah, that's great.
So
Hey.
I do have a question though.
Okay.
So for quest 1, when it says like create like a presentation, would we need to record audio over that, or can we just have the screenshots accompanied by text?
You can do screenshots accompanied by text.
Perfect, because I got no chance to record audio this week.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
Also, I had a question pertaining entirely to the Get Connected quest, because that seems like the most popular and easiest one. So would it be easy if I were to just record gameplay and send that over in a podcast format where we're talking in the background? Would that be fine?
I have had that before.
Yes.
Yes, just make sure that you are including some sort of commentary on the original benefits of online social connection.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, what I was about to ask.
Yeah, that's common. We get that from time to time. That should be fine, because you're doing exactly what it says.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. if you feel like you have squeezed all of the information out of this time, then we will call ourselves done.
I have a question.
Great. Let me turn off the recording, and I will let you start with your question. Hold on one second.